It's time for Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness, powered by the staff at Race Chaser Online. Today's racing news, yesterday's racing history, and now here are your hosts, Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and Kyle Magda.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to another 2 hours of Motorsports Madness here on the Performance Motorsports Network. We get a little mad, get a little crazy here on Monday nights, but that's just what we do because we're passionate about this
mad
sport.
And we're crazy.
Well, and we're mad and we're crazy. That's right, Tom Baker.
Crazy mad.
Something. Anyway, I'm Jacob Seelman for Race Chaser Online and PMN alongside our senior editor, Tom Baker, associate editor, Kyle Magda. We got a lot to get to and definitely a lot of ground to cover over the next 2 hours. So we'll go ahead and get it started right now talking about Texas. Tom, everything's bigger in Texas, and Jimmie Johnson was certainly the life of the party and the spoiler, if you will. 5 out of the last 6 races in Texas, Jimmie Johnson has either been in victory lane or darned awful close. He's now 4 in a row in the fall chase race there. He's won 3 straight overall, and he sweeps Texas in 2015. Guess he's a little bit good there, wouldn't you say?
Boom! Confetti.
That's my line.
Well, it's actually from a Lowe's commercial. But anyway, we move on. JJ stole that one. Just like a real race car driver should. He was quiet, and there he goes. That's kind of how that went. Nobody should be surprised that Jimmie Johnson won at Texas, but I will say this, that to me, that wasn't big. The fact that Jimmie Johnson won at Texas is not big. You said everything's bigger in Texas. Here's what's bigger in Texas. What's bigger in Texas is Team Penske is on the outside looking in right now of this chase.
Just a bit.
With 1 race left. And one of them has to win to get in. I'm not sure Brad has to win.
He's got to be darned awful close.
He's got to be close and probably have some help. But Joey Logano has to win. And the biggest loser over the weekend was Goodyear because their tires were exploding all over the place. I don't know why.
None of us really do.
Rarely do we see Goodyear come up with a stink bomb of a tire for a track, but something was going on this weekend. I don't want to say it was Goodyear's fault, but there were an awful lot of blown tires from different teams, and it would seem to me that it's more likely that there was some sort of a defect in the tire, or it was just there was something going on with the tire rather than all of these various and different teams setting the pressures wrong or whatever. But certainly Joey did not need that break on top of, though the crowd loved it, on top of, everything else. But it's who would have thought that we would get down to Phoenix, a track that Kevin Harvick basically owns. And
yeah, they need to just rename the place Harvick International Raceway at this point.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's really set up this is really what NASCAR wanted, because we come down to the final race and, you really look at this scenario now where you've got, the 2 villains, basically, according to the fans who look at this like WWE. Joey and Brad are the heels, and both heels are on their heels right now, and one of them needs to win, and the problem is only one of them can. So it's going to be interesting, Jacob. I think that, to me, sticks out more than anything is, the biggest part of Texas was that you've got 2 guys, one of which we thought was a lock and I picked to win the title, and the other of which, certainly it should have been at least this far in the chase, and you would have thought would have been in the Final Four as well with Brad Keselowski, and neither one of them right now are in a very good position going into this. Is checkers or wreckers for both of them, so it's kind of an apt phrase when you're talking about a couple of heels, isn't it?
Yeah, just a little bit. And, Kyle Magda, we have to keep in mind now with everything that Tom just said, there is a good chance that not only will one Penske car be out of the Final Four, but both Penske cars will likely be out of the Final Four unless Brad Keselowski can have a really good finish and get a little bit of help. Are you buying or selling that either the 2 or the 22 makes the Final Four, or are they both toast?
I'm selling it, Jacob, because what had happened yesterday for Penske was catastrophic. With Joey Logano's issues on lap 10 with the tire going down, and then Brad Keselowski going out there leading 312 of the race's 334 laps, and getting passed by Jimmy Johnson in the closing laps. But from what happened and what has transpired in the last 3 weeks, I do not see either car making it. I think everyone is saying Kevin Harvick. I mean, it's hard to bet against him. At a track he's done so well at. And, in the same – well, actually he's in a better spot than he was last year, Kevin Harvick, that is, because actually he's locked in right now on points. But I think, we go into there. I mean, all Penske, they have to give their best shot, no matter – everyone's writing them off because of Kevin Harvick. They just got to go in there and win. I know Joey led a lot of laps there in the spring, not as many as Kevin, though. But, Joey I think he won the pole. I know Harvick won the pole. I think Joey might have been started second. But got passed on the next run. But yeah, it's not looking very good right now. But one thing I do want to bring up quickly is that win. It may have not been big for Jimmy Johnson, but I thought it was huge for Jeff Gordon because you take out 2 Penske guys, especially Brad Keselowski, who looked like he was going to win that race, and Jeff Gordon's right now he may be dodging 2 bullets going into Homestead, not having to worry about either Penske driver with all they've done the last 2 races. I mean, Penske drivers have pretty much dominated the last 2 races and no victories to show for it. I mean, I know with Matt Kenseth and everything. So, Jacob, this is going to be a very interesting situation come Sunday. There's just a lot on the line right now and not a lot of time left.
There is a lot on the line right now. And, Tom, I'll throw this one to you. Are you buying or selling that Kevin Harvick is a rock-solid guarantee, and unless he falls off the face of the planet or somebody sabotages that race car before Sunday, that he will sit in victory lane at the end of the day?
I'm selling.
Really?
I don't think he's going to win Sunday.
Really?
No. And there's 2 reasons why I think that. One is because everyone thinks he's going to. And, how many times have we seen so far this season you pick a winner and then somebody goes out and, crashes or a motor falls apart or whatever. And Kevin Harvick has not been invincible this year. He's been second how many times? And you say, well, that certainly isn't a bad thing, but those are all times he didn't win the race that you would have thought, at least half of those times he might have been able to break through. I guess I'm making the point that he is capable of being beaten, and I know Phoenix has been a track he's had tremendous success on, but, this is going to be one of those races, I think. If Kevin Harvick is going to win, he's going to have to dodge some bullets because there are going to be some guys that are going to be driving very desperately. And, I'm not just talking about a Joey or a Brad, but you got guys like Kurt Busch, and you got some other guys that, they may be auditioning for next year. They may be trying to get out, with a win. I mean, this is going to be a very, very intriguing race. I don't believe Kevin Harvick's going to win. The odds are too much in his favor for that to happen, if that makes any sense. It just seems too obvious, and, that hasn't been the way the season's played out, and I think Kyle made a great point about come Homestead, that Jeff Gordon, if neither of the Penske cars make it, that in theory, at least, might pave the way for Jeff Gordon to win the championship. Of course, Dale Jarrett picked him regardless. He didn't say whether it mattered who makes it. Dale picked Jeff to win it outright, and I think he's got a good shot at it.
I like it, honestly. And that would be the Hollywood ending now, wouldn't it, guys? Because in his final season, a season really that everybody wanted to see him win the title, nobody expected him to do it after the start to the season, that would be the perfect storybook close to not only a Hall of Fame career. We know he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but, to a season in which there's been so much turmoil. I mean, stop and consider right now the 4 drivers that are in it. Kevin Harvick is trying to go back-to-back. He's currently inside the Final 4 in a system where nobody thought, Tom, that you could go back-to-back. Kyle Busch has a shot to win it after missing the first 11 races of the season with the broken leg. Jeff Gordon has a shot to keep the Drive for 5 alive in his final Cup season. Martin Truex has a shot to give little old Furniture Row Racing, the one-car team out of Denver, Colorado, a championship all the way out west. I mean, this right now is shaping up to be unbelievable. There are storylines no matter where you look.
Well, and let me just slip. You guys are big on stats, so let me just slip another one in here for you. If we were using the old point system, we didn't have the chase, Kevin Harvick would be leading Joey Logano right now, with Joey still having a solid chance to win the championship. So, I think the fans need to be careful what they wish for. If they want the chase to go away, but they also want Joey to be eliminated from a chance to win the championship because he did a bad thing to Matt at Kansas, then you probably need to keep the chase, because the chase is the reason Joey Logano has got to win to get in. Whereas otherwise it really wouldn't have mattered much at all. So interesting, that was a racing reference stat too. Interesting thing that's going on there. But yeah, Jeff is strong at Homestead. Kyle points out he dominated it last year. So I see no reason to think that Jeff Gordon won't be in contention. And he's kind of been the guy that that everyone's wanted to poo-poo all year long. It just hasn't. Well, now it's come down to crunch time, and look who's running for the championship. Jeff Gordon has punched his ticket. So he's definitely going to make people think twice at Homestead for sure. He's not going to roll over, and right now all the effort from Hendrick Motorsports will end up going on to that 24 car for Homestead, because he's the only one with a shot to win the championship.
That is absolutely right. We'll talk more NASCAR from Texas and heading into Phoenix when we come back. We've got Xfinity action, truck action. We take all 3 series plus the K&N West to Phoenix this weekend, and we'll hit on it all when we come back. You are listening to Motorsports Madness here on the Performance Motorsports Network, the voice of motorsports.
Okay, so Sarah, I'm dropping you off at Emily's?
Yep.
And Josh, you're going to?
Soccer, Dad. Soccer practice.
Right. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know when I pick you both up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What?
No!
Yep, and my dorky dad hat, and I'm going to do my dad dance for all your friends. They'll love it!
Seriously? Why?
Because I like my short shorts. Of course, I could be talked out of it if you guys would just buckle up your seatbelts without giving me a hard time.
It's important to get your kids to buckle up for safety, no matter what it takes. And sometimes, all it takes is your parental powers of persuasion.
Okay, we're buckling up.
See, all buckled.
Good choice. I'll just have to do my dad dance at dinner time.
What?
No!
Do what you have to make sure your kids are wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Parents, your son or daughter has had their license for a while now, but you want to make sure they're prepared for any situation they may face on the road. High school driver's ed doesn't teach them to drive defensively. They need to be prepared for any highway emergency. For less than a month's insurance, and a whole lot less, BSR instructors at Summit Point Motorsports Park in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, will teach your son or daughter how to respond instantly and positively to unexpected situations on the road. BSR's specialized accident avoidance training teaches swerve to avoid maneuvers at highway speed, ocular driving, which focuses driving attention on ways to avoid accidents, vehicle dynamics and feedback, skid control and skid recovery, threshold braking on straights and progressive braking on curves, and off-road recovery techniques. This is stuff driver's ed simply doesn't teach. So call BSR today, 304-725-8444. Give your kid the skill set needed to drive safely and responsibly on the highway. That's 304-725-8444.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
We now return you to 2.5 Men on Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network.
This is not a comedy show. This is a motorsports show.
Sometimes it's funny.
Sometimes
Mainly when we're not
funny.
trying to be.
Yeah, that's the problem. Welcome back to Motorsports Madness here on PMN. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda around the round table, comprising the 2 plus a half here. I guess I'm the half or something. We've never really officially decided that. But anyway, talking motorsports, talking NASCAR, and talking Texas right now, Tom. And oh, by the way, talking a truck championship battle to boot. And how do you win a championship? What would be the easiest way you would presume to do that?
You do what Eric Jones did. You win the race.
Exactly right. Max points. Jones dominates that truck race Friday night, extends the gap on Matt Crafton and Tyler Reddick going into Phoenix, a track where, oh, by the way, Kyle Magda, like Kevin Harvick, he's a little bit good. He's won the last 2 consecutive truck races there.
He's undefeated there.
Woo!
So, yeah, I mean, he's looking really good right now. And when you go to a track where you haven't been beaten at, with Kyle Busch Motorsports, and there's just so much looking up for him, I think it's going to be really hard for Matt Crafton this week to do anything with him. And I know we had the whole power outage thing last year, which was crazy at Phoenix. But, I think that, we come into Homestead, I think it's going to be a lot closer. I think right now as it's looking, it looks like we're going to be crowning all 3 champions at Homestead. We don't have the Chase Elliott scenario like last year, but it's looking really good right now for Eric Jones. He just goes out, dominates. And Jacob, don't forget, Kyle Busch Motorsports was 1-2 at Texas with Daniel Suarez finishing second. And he had a good truck as well, just ran out of time. But in the end, they just did what they had to do and extended his points lead, Jacob.
He did do that. And, Tom, I was a little surprised, honestly, that Matt Crafton was as average as he was, because he's the king of mile-and-a-half racetracks, or at least it seemed that way this year. So, yeah, it was surprising to me, honestly, to see him not necessarily struggle, but just not be able to take the fight to Eric Jones.
Well, I don't know that it was so much that he was average as some other folks were just fantastic. I mean, you only get a perfect race car or race truck in this case every so often, and it just seemed like Eric Jones had that the other day. There was just nobody that was going to nobody that was going to do anything with him, really. You had several guys that I thought, including Crafton, that did, that were good. Both of the BKR trucks were very good with Ryan Blaney and Tyler Reddick. And that was the other reason why we really didn't see a great change in the points battle, because all 3 of those guys finished close enough to each other that really it didn't make a huge difference. But Eric certainly did what he had to do, and there's no reason to think that he won't do so again at Phoenix. So I really this has all the makings of that race this past Friday at Texas kind of being the turning point for Eric, tipping the scales well into his favor now, where he's kind of in control of his own destiny, and it becomes his championship to lose rather than someone else's to win. The bigger question, Jacob, is if something does happen to Eric Jones, who do we think steps up and is most likely to take control? Is it Crafton or is it Tyler Reddick? Because either one of them still could.
Matt Crafton.
You think?
Yeah. That's not even a question. Tyler Reddick has not been where he needs to be in the latter stages.
I think he was as good as Crafton the other day.
Maybe. I'm not buying it, though. I'm just not. If anybody's going to seize control, it's Crafton, if for no other reason than because he's done it twice before. So, by the way, though, speaking of Tyler Reddick and his team, Brad Keselowski, can we hit on a subject we haven't discussed on this show yet? Daniel Hemrick to Brad Keselowski Racing next year. Woohoo!
I couldn't resist the applause there, because if there's ever a driver who deserves the opportunity. It's Daniel Hemrick. We're a little biased because you and I have watched him for virtually his whole racing career, but this is a young man who really has done this right. He's not arrogant. He's not cocky. He's gone out and worked very hard. He does a lot to promote his sponsors. He really has been an exemplary role model for his peers in how to win gracefully, lose gracefully. He's a very, very talented racer. I mean, I did a hashtag backflip junior when I broke the news on my Facebook wall because he's kind of adopted that from Carl Edwards. But he really I think Daniel's going to do just fine. And, great addition to the team next year for sure. He and Tyler Reddick would be championship threats. And that's, that gives BKR some real stability. And I think you probably see at that point a third truck for, whoever else, Brad now and then, and Ryan Blaney, and, maybe hopefully still Austin Terrio for some races as well. You'd like to think anyway.
You would like to think, but Kyle Magda, I'm a little nervous about that. I get this weird feeling that Terrio may be the odd man out.
I think so too, Jacob. The reason why I say that is because I think he has a sponsorship. He just needs to. I'm not sure on that, but I thought he had maybe sponsorship. I know he ran the 3 races with Junior Motorsports in the Nationwide Series last year, but I just don't know right now. I hope he can be healthy enough to come back for Homestead. That's one thing I am praying for every day, that he can at least, whatever he's going to do next year, at least he can finish the season out in that 29 truck. I know Austin Cindric's behind the wheel again this week, and woo indeed, and with Austin Terrio, Austin filling in for Austin, but but going back to that, I just want to see him finish out this season. You never wish bad on a driver, and I know what happened at Las Vegas wasn't the best circumstance, but it does happen. It is a part of racing, but hopefully he'll heal up here quick. He can get back in Homestead, and then he can look for something for 2016.
Now, here's I get these crazy thoughts because again, you just try to put pieces to a puzzle together, and so here's a crazy thought. So you have this third truck with BKR, and you have Brad wanting to maybe, play a few times in it. He doesn't seem to care to run it, more than 3 or 4 times during the season, it doesn't seem. And you've got Ryan Blaney and maybe Austin Cindric out there who may still desire to and be encouraged to make a few starts. But if that truck doesn't have full season sponsorship, there's a young man who seems at least to be now a free agent named Ben Rhodes out there with a number of races worth of funding potentially. Jacob?
I'm still not convinced he won't turn up in the 98 truck next year.
Well, again, that would be an interesting question. And, there may be other teams looking at him that we aren't aware of. But, it would be, again, a question of funding because as of right now, what we know is that this year Ben had 10 races worth from Alpha Energy. And so we don't really know what his status is on that end. So assuming that the 98 would have a full season sponsor or at least most of the season, that may be a distinct possibility. But I look at pieces to a puzzle and you say, well, Ben's dad is a sharp cookie. I don't think they're going to necessarily be loyal or faithful to the Chevy brand because they really aren't signed to a contract anywhere. So you look at the opportunities you have, and I'm just thinking out loud. If there is a third truck and there's going to be a third truck and it maybe needs, still some funding to make it a full season, is that somewhere Ben fits? And how interesting would that be to put Ben Rhodes into that mix of talent over there? Because, that's a pretty hefty lineup of talent as it is that I would say rivals what Kyle Busch Motorsports has got for next year. Easily.
Easily. Let's talk Xfinity real quick. That was the rotating story of Cup drivers all day on Saturday afternoon, Tom, because for a while Austin Dillon was good. He started on the pole. Then Kevin Harvick got good for a little bit. Then Kyle Busch got good for a little bit before he broke. And Kyle Larson looked like he was going to win the race before he blew a tire and spun. And through it all, who comes through but the guy who clinches the Owners' Championship for the third straight year for Roger Penske? All hail Keselowski.
Yeah, and how cool was that? Because I know how much most fans just love Brad. So I just always have fun watching fans go nuts, and so. That certainly will get under the craw, although I don't think most people care about Xfinity with the same intensity as Cup. But interesting to see Brad get up there and get the win. He surely wasn't the dominant car by any means. As you just said, there were several cars in that race. That was one of the better Xfinity Series races, actually, that I thought of this season, to be honest. Kind of interesting going into Phoenix, but who's in the 22 at Phoenix, I want to know.
I'll tell you here in about 2 seconds.
Okay, Kyle says Keselowski. I was thinking it would be real interesting if Joey Logano were driving it, considering we know Ross Kenseth is coming back to the Xfinity Series.
Don't even get me started on that. Don't even go there.
Of course it won't happen now because Keselowski's in the car.
It is Keselowski, just for the record. But I
didn't doubt Kyle for a minute.
For half a second. Anyway, no, Xfinity goes to Phoenix. That title fight is not over. Chris Buescher hasn't won it by any means. Chase Elliott closed the gap some.
Not much.
Not much.
Not much.
Chris just has to keep doing what he's doing. Top 10s at this point will win him a championship. And for Roush Fenway, they need that. I know there have been a few rumors of Regan Smith potentially, them wanting Regan for next year. I mean, we don't know what's going to become of that, Tom. Time's running out, though, for the driver from Cato, New York. He needs a place, I think, soon.
Yeah, well, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But, again, if you look at these drivers like pieces to a puzzle, chess pieces on a chessboard, Regan doesn't come with a lot of sponsor dollars. So, if somebody's going to hire Regan, it's going to be on talent. And that means you're going to either have to have already pre-existing funding to support the team, or a situation where you're supporting it and you don't care about the funding. Regan is great with sponsors, and I'm sure he could provide a resume 6 miles long of references who will attest to that. But, definitely. I think Regan would be the perfect fit for the 98 truck.
Yes,
if
please.
he doesn't get anything of quality in Xfinity or Cup that he can win with.
This is a valid point, and we're going to discuss more NASCAR later in the show. Right now, we're going to talk K&M West around the turn. We'll be right back with more Motorsports Madness here on PMN, the Performance Motorsports Network.
Dad, remember that year my birthday party got washed out by the storm? When nobody showed up, and we spent the whole night eating cake and ice cream?
Yeah, I remember. Had to be your worst party ever.
Actually, it was my favorite.
You never know which moments will be the ones they remember forever. So take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 1-877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council. You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right. It's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette. It's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this could be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
The Performance Motorsports Network is a compilation of shows about motorsports. From technical to controversial to just fun, everything you like about racing and gearhead stuff is right here on one internet channel. The Performance Motorsports Network. Tell your friends about it.
Hi, this is Denny Hamlin. I want to share with you today a little known but widely pervasive neurological disorder called dyspraxia. It's estimated that dyspraxia affects between 4 and 10% of the general population, and the majority of those affected are male. The condition primarily affects motor skills, but also can affect memory, judgment, and executive function. It's sometimes referred as the hidden disability because it's not immediately obvious to others that the person affected has special needs. My niece Sarah has dyspraxia, and with the proper support in place, she is very successful in school and other activities. Sarah was lucky because she was diagnosed early. Many children and adults go years without knowing. Let's raise awareness for this disability that affects 1 in 11 people. I encourage you to learn more, get involved, and support the Dyspraxia Foundation USA. Thank you.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network. Now back to Jacob, Tom, and Kyle on Motorsports Madness.
Welcome back to the madness here on the Performance Motorsports Network. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda around tonight's round table, and we move to a conversation about the Regional Touring Series. Maybe not necessarily our standard motive here on the madness, but definitely something we enjoy talking about when we can. And to do that, we're talking with the driver right now on the Race Chaser hotline that is making his NASCAR K&N Pro Series West debut this weekend with Bill McAnally racing at Phoenix International Raceway. Tom, we want to welcome Todd Gilliland to the show. And
indeed,
Todd, first off, welcome back to the program, and definitely excited to hear about what you've got going on. Talk a little bit about the K&N West deal this weekend. I know you're excited about it, and I'm curious how it came about and how you guys got hooked up with Bill for this weekend's race.
Well, we've definitely been really excited about this opportunity to race at Phoenix for a little while now. We've been talking about it pretty much all year, trying to get all the details straightened out, and we actually built a new car just for this race. So we'll see how it goes, and hopefully luck's on our side, and we get a good finish out of it.
Well, now you say you've been talking about it for most of the year. What started the conversation? Why did you single out Phoenix as a race that you'd like to run?
Well, it's the big end of the year race for K&N. Not so much on the east, but I actually just looked at the entry list right before coming on here, and there's a lot of East drivers coming out there, so it should be a really tough race for both the East and the West, and there's a big points battle going on out there, so it's definitely a really competitive series, and definitely a lot of opportunity to learn.
What do you know about Phoenix, Todd? Have you watched videos? I mean, tell me what have you been thinking about this race, and what are you thinking about as far as getting on that track in that situation with a star-studded field like that?
Well, I'm definitely really excited. I've been there with my dad a bunch of times, and he's told me all these stories about him racing there, and he actually won a K&N race there a few years ago. So he'll definitely be there every single time at my window net, just giving me all the information he knows, and just trying to get me ready for whatever I need next.
And this has got to be a big deal for you, Todd. I know, obviously, the ARCA win earlier this year in your first start with the series. Now, your first start with the K&N West this weekend. Do you have that high of hopes going into this one? Do you think you can replicate what you did in your first ARCA start, or is it just one of those situations where you're taking it one lap at a time, and if you're in position maybe to seize an opportunity like that, then you go for it?
Yeah, exactly. In the ARCA race, that's how we got to the end, was we took it one lap at a time and had the mentality to going into the race that we were going to finish all 200 laps and be there at the end. And that's how we won the race. You can't really win them without being there at the end. So that's definitely our goal for this weekend, is finish all the laps and learn as much as you can from all those stars out there.
How different do you think it's going to be, or have you had a little bit of experience already between the ARCA car and the K&N car? Because you talk to guys like William Byron, and we've heard some of these guys that have done both cars say that there's a lot of difference between the two. Are you expecting some of that going into this race?
Yeah, well, there's definitely going to be differences from no matter what car you get into, and I don't know. I'm excited to try and tackle the differences and learn as quickly as I can. And, yeah, I definitely feel the same thing because, obviously, I've driven an ARCA car and tested one of Bill McAnally's cars at Roseville about 2 months ago. And they definitely have their differences, but for the most part, they're both heavy. They're both obviously stock cars. And, I mean, they both come down to the same thing. And you can make the most out of any opportunity, and you just kind of got to do that, and no matter what you're in.
Todd, I know you said you looked at the entry list earlier before you came on here. I mean, who are some of the drivers you're looking at this weekend who you're going to be faced up against, maybe that you've raced in the past?
I've raced a ton with William Byron, for Dalton Sargent. I've raced late models with all those guys, so it's going to be cool to see them again and watching all their success this year in the K&N series.
Yeah, and you mentioned your dad won Phoenix a couple times. Does that add any pressure for you at all? Just knowing that you're coming to Phoenix, and also I know you ran Iowa earlier in the season. I mean, did that big track experience help you to prepare you for this weekend here at Phoenix?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people say that racing in Iowa and the Phoenix race like bigger tracks than what they really are. So every track you race has valuable information, and hopefully I can use some of what I gained from Iowa to go to Richmond. And I don't really think there's any added pressure, more just I guess more information that I can use and hopefully use to my advantage.
I definitely think, Todd, that you've got a really good opportunity here. I guess the question becomes, stacking the East guys up against the West guys, and with the championship battle going on, does that change your strategy at all? I mean, I know you're going in to win the race; everybody does, but you've kind of all of the drivers from the East are kind of walking into the middle of a championship battle here, so it's a little like racing against the chase drivers in the Cup Series. How does that affect the strategy that you employ and the way you actually run this race?
Well, I mean, you definitely don't ever want to disrupt a championship battle that's been going on all year and get it ruined by one race from an East guy, say that comes out to the West for this one race and ruins your whole championship. So I don't think you can really race them any different, but just definitely be clean and I don't know, just kind of be smart. But yeah, that's definitely a crazy deal for all of us to go out there and be in the middle of the championship battle.
Speaking of, ending the season, championship battles and going into next year, Todd, I'm curious, is this a precursor to anything you guys might have planned for next year? I mean, I know I certainly expected to see you in the late model a lot more this season, and you've been mentoring a couple of younger drivers, but I mean, what are the plans for you for next year? Is there anything that you can talk about with us just yet?
Well, we're hoping to run for a championship next year in the K&N series. We'll see what really happens and what comes together. We should know something pretty soon, and it should be exciting.
Awesome.
We're looking forward to it.
Yes.
I'm very excited about
good.
that. I mean, and I know for you that's going to be a little bit different than what you've had a lot of opportunity for. In the past couple of years. I mean, you've not really had a lot of chance to points race, so that'll be kind of a new experience for you, I know.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't raced for points in probably 3 years now, so it's different. But I feel like you kind of got to race every race aggressive, just like you're always at the racetrack to win. So you can't really change that, I don't think. But, you got to be smart all the time. And if you're smart and race clean, I'm sure you'll get a lot of good finishes and hopefully be in the championship hunt when it comes to the last race.
Well, I know we're looking forward to seeing what you can do, hopefully, on the K&N Tour next year, Todd. And I know, you've not been able to race maybe as much as you'd like this year, but I know there's a lot of people that do go into what you do. And any sponsors and shout-outs that you need to give, now's the time to do it. Who makes it happen for Todd Gilliland?
Well, I'd like to thank my parents for sure and Frontline Enterprises. They've helped us a ton this year on all our late models, and now they're on the K&N car for this weekend. So it's cool to see them coming with us to the K&N series, and hopefully we can continue that partnership. And I'd also like to thank my crew chief, Chris Lawson, and all the guys working so hard to get this car done.
We're excited for it, Todd, and we're definitely
doubt.
wishing you the best of luck this weekend in Phoenix. Actually, here just a couple of days, Thursday night, the time and place. So, again, best of luck, Todd. We're looking forward to seeing great things out. Hey, if you win the race, we get to have you back on next week. So there's a goal to shoot for.
Yeah, perfect. Hopefully I can talk to you guys soon.
As if he needed any more motivation, coming back to talk to us again. That'll fire him up. Thanks, Todd. We appreciate it. We definitely wish you the best out there.
Yep, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, Tom, before we cut to break, I'm excited about this. I mean, look at the list of young talent we get this weekend. Todd, Harrison Burton, William Byron, Dalton Sargent, Kaz Gralla, J.J. Haley, Noah Gregson, Grayson Raz. Yep. Does it get any better than this?
Well, and it keeps growing. Ronnie Bassett Jr.
Sure.
The Bulldog going out there. It keeps growing, and that's I think that's awesome. It is going to be a real Kyle Magna just points out in our chat. Spencer Davis, another one.
Yeah.
Who's going out there in the NTS K&N car. So that's going to be really fun to watch these guys. And Thursday night's race is going to be great. Doggone it, I wish they televised it live.
Right? Oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to it. 100 miles at Phoenix.
Yes.
We get to set it up even more on Thursday's Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show. So we're looking forward to that. Right now, we're going to go to break. When we come back, Open Wheel Central and Joel Sebastianelli stops by to talk the IndyCar schedule for 16 and preview the Brazilian Grand Prix for Formula One. You're listening to Motorsports Madness here on PMN, the Performance Motorsports Network.
Do you love the sound of high revving motors and the smell of burning rubber? Do you want to get your car sideways right at the ragged edge of control? If you've always wanted to try drifting or learn to improve your drifting skills, Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier motorsports facility, has the expert instructors and the specialized track to teach you how to drift and the skills necessary to drift competitively. From skid pad to open sessions, Summit Point Motorsports Park has the safe and open environment that allows drifters of all skill levels, new to intermediate, to get sideways and smoking. With a focus on safety and the skill set necessary to drift competitively, Summit Point Motorsports Park's Drift Nirvana is just the thing for you. Call for your reservation today, 304-725-8444. Or for more information, go online, summitpoint-raceway.com, or you can email them at office@bsrinc.com. Drift Nirvana, getting you sideways the right way.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes
In
me.
biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today.
The only thing I didn't learn is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Media sales professionals with agency experience. If you're frustrated with your current position, unrealistic quotas, and inept management, if you're a sales machine and you simply will not take no as an acceptable reply, if you're looking for a rapidly growing company with unlimited sales potential for commissions in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you're searching for a high-tech, forward-looking, laid-back, but extremely professional organization who appreciate your skills and dedication, we have your next opportunity. Scorpion Radio Group is building a sales team of self-starters who are motivated. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444 or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. That's 717-749-0444 and ask for Sue.
COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, is a lung disease that robs people of their ability to breathe. As many as 24 million Americans suffer from COPD, also known as chronic bronchitis or emphysema, and half of them don't know they have the disease. If you or someone you love is over 35 and has smoked more than 100 cigarettes in their lifetime, visit driveforcopd.org and take the screener, then take that to your doctor. I'm Jeff Stoltz, and I drive for COPD.
Time now for Open Wheel Central with our resident wine and cheeser, Joe Sebastianelli. Here to pop the cork is Race Chaser Online's managing editor, Jacob Seelman.
We're back here on Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, and the irreplaceable Joel Sebastianelli back with us live here at the Race Chaser Roundtable. And
don't blow up his head.
Oh, come on. He's got the hair for it.
That's a whole other
That's been done already. It can't get
That's
further.
a different show.
Anyway. All right, Joel, let's kick off the open wheel conversation. You're excited, and I'll tell you why you're excited, because you've only said it to me about 6 times over the past 2 weeks. We have an IndyCar schedule for 2016, and it's not just 5 months long.
Yeah, it is a little bit longer. It's exciting that we finally have something to work with for next year. A couple of highlights. Season is going to start earlier. March 13th is going to be the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. It's going to be one heck of a month for racing. Really from about mid-February on, you have all the festivities at Daytona. There's Sebring packed into that same time. So this is going to be moved up 2 weeks. It helps extend the IndyCar season by close to a full month. So you've got that race on the 13th, about a 3-week break off until April 2nd for Phoenix. IndyCar heading back to Phoenix International Raceway. That's one of my favorite ovals anywhere in this country. So if we're going to add another oval, I'm glad that after a decade we get to end that absence with IndyCar. A couple other notables, Road America, which I'm sure over the last couple months we've talked plenty about. That's going to be June 26th. That's going to be a really big race too. And there's still some discussion on whether or not this is going to happen. It hasn't gone over easily. I suppose most street races, with the exception of Long Beach, which has been established for 40 years. Usually you run into a lot of civil planning issues, everything from the people to just civic discourse. There's all sorts of different issues that pop up when trying to plan these street events. But September 4th in Boston, Labor Day weekend, we should know within the next couple weeks. Mayor Marty Walsh wants this confirmed. So they're talking to the Mass Department of Transportation. They're talking to everybody they need to talk to. For whatever it's worth, it sounds like most people in Boston, at least the vocal ones, are not happy about this. Many of them were not happy about an Olympic bid. When the U.S. was bidding to host the Olympics one more time, Boston was one of the big cities, and it was violently shut down by people who understandably think it's just throwing money down the drain. To be fair, I actually see some of the reasons that Bostonians are upset about this. As much as I'd love to see the event, I think it would be great. I still think it's going to happen too, but that's worth keeping an eye on, especially within the next couple of weeks.
I just don't understand why, if so many people are so many people in Boston are against it. I mean, they don't understand why would you even pursue it. Take it to Baltimore or somewhere where they would want it. That's as, you know, I don't understand the Bostonians being against it. I mean, you know, it brings in money. It brings in national television. I mean, I know
for a
it's
city that doesn't need it, though, because it's a city that doesn't really need that much more exposure, which is one of their arguments. When you look at cities like St. Pete, for example.
Okay, fair enough. If they don't want the exposure, then IndyCar just, as far as I'm concerned, just take it somewhere else. I mean, why even fuss around? You know, you're getting to the end of the year. You know, why are we still? We've been talking about this Boston event most of the season. Why are we still not sure whether we're going to race it or not?
Yeah, I think that there's a legitimate argument there, everything that you're saying, but I also understand some of the other issues, like traffic, for example, and this is where I have a little more of a unique perspective. My cousin, very, very close to her, actually lives 2 blocks away from where Turn 3 is going to be. And so one of the concerns for everybody there is, how the heck are we going to get around the city? Because you have apartment buildings that are essentially being blocked off. You have to start building up the street circuit 60 days in advance. So in such a busy section of the town on a weekend that's going to be very busy for travel anyway, Labor Day weekend, there are a lot of people who just think that this is more effort and more inconvenience for locals than it's really worth. It's something cool to attract other people, but right down the street, how many people does Fenway Park attract every year? You know, how many people get attracted to the Garden? Boston is in a unique situation where, don't get me wrong, I would love to see it, but is it really great for the city? Those are 2 completely different questions. And this, I think a lot of people in Boston are viewing this as a small-scale Olympic bid, and they don't like it. There's definitely some resentment held over for that.
Well, I mean, and I'm not trying to diss anyone up there. I'm simply saying that I don't understand why we've haggled this long. It would seem like we would have known how they feel about it, and if the traffic questions are legitimate and all of that, then maybe this just isn't the right place to hold an event, and we ought to have been trying to bring it somewhere else. I personally thought, I keep coming back to Baltimore, but that was a great event, I thought, and it seemed like the people wanted it. I'm not sure what all the reasons were why they stopped going back, Joel. Maybe you can reshed some light on that subject, but I just think this is nuts that we're even still questioning this at this late date.
Well, Baltimore had really good attendance numbers, but there were still plenty of complaints from people in Baltimore. There was some court action, I believe, some financial issues over there, and a lot of people in really around any street circuit, I think, save for St. Pete too, because St. Pete also has the benefit of being right along the water where it's not really causing an inconvenience for anybody. This Boston race is much, even though it's by the water, it's much closer to an epicenter of restaurants and popular places and people getting from South Boston trying to make it back into the main part of the city. It's very difficult for travel. I think the point that's worth mentioning here is, you mentioned, should we look at other places? Well, I think there are so many issues with making a street race happen. I do wonder if it's worth more trouble. I mean, this trouble that they go through to bend over backwards for these cities to appease the people, many of whom don't want it. Well, maybe there's an argument to be made for trying to bring on more natural terrain road courses.
Yes.
For trying to bring on more ovals. Because when you really stop and think about how many street races there are, Detroit counts, even though Detroit has had its fair share of issues. There's Long Beach, there's St. Pete. But how many street races are successful in the long term? Most of them crash and burn, or even if it's not dramatic, they at least fizzle out. So maybe we should start looking at something that's quite literally more of a permanent solution.
Jacob, why don't we go back to the airport at Cleveland?
Ooh.
That was huge. That used to be a great race. What happened to that?
I don't even know. That's Joel's the history buff on this one, not me. Anyway,
I loved Burke Lakefront. Burke Lakefront Airport was really cool. I think 2007 was the last year for it, because once the 2 series unified, nothing ever came of it. I can't see them ever going back, but to be honest, I don't know all of the reasons why.
All right, Joel, so let's shift gears for a minute and preview the racing action that's coming up. Brazilian Grand Prix for Formula One. We're down to 2 races to go to end the season, Brazil and then Abu Dhabi. We know the championships are over. Constructors' title was sealed ages ago. The driver's title sealed last time out for Lewis Hamilton. But the question is, we still got 2 Grand Prix trophies to hand out. Is there any change going into Brazil?
I don't see there being much of a change. I think Brazil would be straightforward, at least as far as Mercedes on top. I think Hamilton and Nico Rosberg would be 1 and 2. Sebastian Vettel's 21 points back of Nico Rosberg. So as far as the Drivers' Championship goes, he has an uphill battle. Constructors' Championship and Mercedes is far and away. Ferrari is well away from Williams. There aren't really that many that are up for grabs, except for maybe Lotus and Toro Rosso are relatively close to each other. Everything seems pretty straightforward heading into these last 2 races. But as of now, 80% chance of rain on Sunday. Showers expected Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You never know about the weather there. So we could very well be in for an exciting race, as we normally are every time we go back there.
It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, if a Mercedes doesn't win, do you think it's Vettel's the only chance of a real spoiler?
Not if it rains. If it rains, I think that you could even see Williams get up in there. If you remember in the wet at Silverstone, Williams definitely excited some people, leading for a substantial portion of that race. So I think Williams could theoretically be in the fight. Sebastian Vettel definitely seems to be the most likely of everybody, though.
Fair enough. Wasn't that rain race at Silverstone the one where Valtteri Bottas looked so good for a while?
Yes. Yes, exactly the race. And then ended up finishing 5th. There were strategy issues. Felipe Massa actually ended up finishing ahead of Bottas in that race. Just with the way the track evolved, Williams ended up losing that thing at the end. But we know that they're good in the wet. And it's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter what type of track it's on. So if it rains, you can always bank on excitement and some level of unpredictability.
Fair enough, Joel. Anything in particular you're looking forward to this weekend? I personally love the Brazilian Grand Prix circuit. This is one of my favorite places that we get to go to all year, if for no other reason than the fact it's so scenic to watch on TV.
Oh, me too. And what's actually interesting is it's a question, but I think this is more interesting. The little history lesson here is when they left Interlagos, one of the reasons is because the areas around there were very poor. And Formula One at the time thought that it was displaying a horrible image, not just for the country itself, but for Formula One, that this rich and famous, luxurious series was running an area where you have practically shanties built around the track. So just an interesting piece of history there. I agree with you, though. I'm most interested for the track because I love this track. It is my favorite of the F1 circuits.
Fair enough, Joel. We're looking forward to it, and I know we'll catch you on PMN later this week for F1 Racing Plus. I know you're excited about that, and we'll see you next Monday here for another round of the madness.
Can't wait to be back. Whatever racing you're watching this weekend, be sure to enjoy it. Take care, guys.
Joel Sebastianelli, everybody, and when we come back, we're going to shift gears, move from Joel to Steve Ovens, and talk a whole lot of dirt track racing news, a ton of dirt track racing results. It's the World Finals at Charlotte. We break down the results and the driver news from this afternoon's World of Outlaws banquet when we come back. You're listening to Motorsports Madness here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
I'm NASCAR driver Bobby Labonte. At 200 miles per hour, many unseen dangers can arise in the blink of an eye. That's why we have spotters high above the track. They help drivers avoid trouble. Parents need to play the same role when it comes to kids and computers. As a parent, I know the internet can take kids to wonderful sites for learning, entertainment, and fun, but it can also lead to danger.
Here are some safety tips. Keep the computer in a family area where you can see it. Proactively teach your children never to share personal information online.
My turn.
Become knowledgeable about signing on to websites, searching for information, and using email and instant messaging. Doing so will help you recognize potential dangers. Familiarize yourself with safer websites and post that list by your computer.
Like our spotters, parents are best positioned to see the dangers kids could face online and to help them avoid them. Make a commitment to keeping kids safe online.
A message from WebWise Kids and Ask.com.
You own a performance car and you know how to drive, but you want to learn real performance driving. Well, Bunky, get that car off the street and onto the track. Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier road racing facility, located just over an hour from D.C. in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, is the place to go. And you'll find that Friday at the Track is going to give you what you need. For less than a monthly car payment, you can attend this regularly scheduled one-day instructional event in your street car on one of Summit Point's 3 world-class road racing circuits. You'll receive classroom instruction, skid pad instruction in their cars, including front and rear skid control, and 4 20-minute in-your-car instructional sessions from a professional instructor. Have fun, go fast, and really learn how to drive. Call 304-725-8444 for class schedules and details. That's 304-725-8444. Friday at the Track at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
Travel is part of the American way of life.
When we're on vacation, we keep an eye out for anything that looks out of place.
Miss your bag.
When we travel from city to city, we pay attention to our surroundings.
Everyone plays a role in keeping our communities safe.
Whether you're traveling for business or pleasure, be aware of your surroundings. If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Hi, this is Ozzy Osbourne. For many years, you know I've had a drink problem and I'm trying to battle that problem every single day. But one thing I don't do, I don't drive my car when I'm drinking. I get someone to drive me. Do not drink and drive. It's the stupidest thing. If you drink, just don't drive. Not only are you going to hurt yourself, you may hurt some other person, and you wouldn't want that on your conscience, would you?
A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Hi, the kids. It's time to get dirty on Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness. Here are your hosts, Jacob, Tom, and Kyle, with Turn 5 Live's curator of Casa de Pork Chop, Stephen Ovens.
Welcome back. It's time for the second half of tonight's round of Motorsports Madness here on the Performance Motorsports Network. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda still at the Race Chaser Roundtable, joined by our Dr. Dirt Steve Ovens to talk everything from the World Finals and then some. Boy, do we have a packed next little bit of dirt track conversation. Steve-O, where do you want to start, my friend? Results from the World Finals or the complete deluge of news that we got over the last 6 hours this afternoon?
Well, I think it's only right that we start with the World Finals at the dirt track at Charlotte to really put a nice bow on the 2015 season. So many great stories from this weekend, other than Mother Nature, but we won't go there. Some really neat stories that came out of this weekend. And then I think we'll get into all of the late-breaking news for 2016.
Fair enough. Let's start with qualifying night, Steve, and go through this kind of in order. I think the big stories from qualifying night really weren't on the sprint car side, but the late model side. Chris Ferguson, the local boy from right here near the Charlotte area in the late models, picking up a quick time and really strutting his stuff. Got down near the track record for the late models. And then how about Max McLaughlin in the big blocks? Never set foot in one of these things before this weekend, and he goes out and sets quick time for the Saturday program, and everybody looked at us, Tom, and said, this kid's 15? What?
Well, you know, both of those are stories, but I hasten to add that Chris Ferguson, his time wasn't the whole story. To make his time really stand out and to really understand how big of a story that was, you have to realize that the first thing that happened is the initial part of this story is that Chris Ferguson forgot to draw for a qualifying order. So because of that, he had the time trial at the back in both sessions. And, you know, I don't know if that actually helped him to run the time that he ran, you know, as far as to be out on the track at the end versus, let's say, if he'd have drawn, you know, the beginning or more toward the middle. But, you know, Steve, to be able to have a gaffe like that and sort of, I say this in a nice sort of way because I've known Chris a long time, to sort of be the zero for a little while and then go out and rip the time that he ripped and become the hero talk about redeeming yourself. I'd say he did a pretty good job, and he ran 6th quick in the second session for Saturday's event. So he definitely, Steve-O, that's definitely an example of going from zero to hero, at least for a little while.
Oh, definitely, and this is and I know that you guys know this story even better than I do, but I love this story for the reason that we talked about it Thursday night.
Yes.
On the Stock Car Steel Show. There's a huge gap between having the potential to go out and be great and do great things, and it's a whole other thing to go out there and prove it. And not only did he prove it in qualifying, he ran well in the races as well. And, I mean, it seems to me, and Tom, maybe I'll throw this back to you, it seems to me like this is a scenario where here's a young driver with so much potential. If they were able to put a deal together and put the marketing partners together, they could be dangerous out on tour.
Oh, there's no question that Fergie has the potential to go out and, I believe, go out and run for a national championship in the World of Outlaws late models. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I don't think anybody else does either. He's just got to have the opportunity. And as for Max McLaughlin, Jacob, you mentioned that what a great story that was. He really had a chance this weekend to get some very valuable seat time, and I think it's pretty well known that, at least in his mind, he would like to go out and run the super dirt car big block tour full time next year. And he's got the right equipment to do it. He certainly showed he can be fast in qualifying. The racing was a little bit tougher for him, but I think he held his own very nicely and showed us a glimpse of what could be every bit the same type of potential for greatness in those cars that his father, Magic Shoes Mike McLaughlin, exhibited at the start of his career, Jake.
Oh, I think so. And Max is very, very intent on running the whole tour for the big blocks next year if they can get the marketing partners together. And it's all about seat time. That's the big key with him. He's 15. He just needs seat time. We forget, I think, he was scheduled to make 2 big block starts before Charlotte, and they both got rained out. So this was his first experience on Friday and Sunday in race conditions in one of these cars. So I'm not surprised he struggled a little bit. I was really happy to see him make both A-mains.
Absolutely.
I'll take my $1, Shane Andrews, just for the record, because I told him Max would make both A-mains, and Shane didn't believe me. So, there's that point that I have going into the offseason. But Steve-O, Friday night, before Mother Nature decided to intervene on Saturday, Friday was fun. I enjoyed particularly the World of Outlaws sprint car portion. We thought it was going to be one first-time winner in Trace Starks, the Washington teenager in Jeff McCall's car. It ends up being another first-time winner in South Dakota's Dusty Zomer in one of my favorite cars, at least in all of the Midwest, the Buffalo Wild Wings entry. And Dusty said he's going to bring us some food now to next year's World Finals because he won.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was great. I mean, and this is no slight against their team at all. But Jacob and Tom, who had Dusty Zomer on their list of potential winners for night one at the World Finals? And again, that's not at all anything away from their team. It's just, it's like, wow. I mean, what a run for those guys. Yeah, gotta love the Buffalo Wild Wings car. I mean, hey, we call ourselves the Casa de Pork Chop here. I mean, we got to make some room for the Buffalo Wild Wings.
You're right. That's exactly right. I remember back in 1976, a young man named Steve Gioia Jr. had been racing at Oswego Speedway about 3 years. Now, the New York State Fair goes out around Classic Weekend time at Oswego. And his mother at the fair, they had some, little place where you could make up a newspaper with, front page headlines, whatever you wanted. And she had a newspaper made up that said Steve Gioia Jr. wins 76 International Classic. Steve went out and did it the next day. Now, I'm not even sure. I bring that story up to say this, Jacob. I'm not even sure Dusty Zomer's mother would have had a newspaper made up dare saying that he wins the world final. That's so improbable, but how cool is that he and Trey Starks, who both raced the USCS Carolina Swing the weekend before, how cool is that those two invaders come in and and stay in town for the World of Outlaws World Finals and look so good on the first night, pretty much dominating the show with the exception of a brief cameo by Saldana.
It was great, wasn't it? And yeah, and Joey Saldana would have had a shot at sweeping the weekend if it wasn't for the top wing disintegrating with about 9 laps to go. We'll get to more of that in a minute. But yeah, it was fun. It was a great hallmark for my USCS 360 series as well, seeing those two guys that competed with us go out. And we said we were going to use it, Carolina Speedway being similarly fashion to the Charlotte dirt track was going to be a great tune-up, and it turned out being just like that. We'll continue talking about Friday's program real quick, Steve. The big blocks, obviously, Danny Johnson was a fun story, going 2 in a row there. And how about Brandon Shepard, not even supposed to have a ride in the late models for World Finals? He hooks up like at the 23rd hour of a 24-hour day, as far as with the best performance racing team, goes out and wins the thing, smokes them.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is he comes out and puts on that performance, and I mean based on his previous what we've seen him do in the last year, I mean I wasn't too surprised to see that, but it's always about circumstances. These races are won on teams that come in with momentum. They're won by guys that come in with the right set of circumstances on their hands. I mean, you mentioned Danny Johnson. I mean, it's now starting to become a regular thing that when we think World Finals, we think of that orange 27J in Victory Lane, and it was great. And if folks, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, Jacob did a great interview with Danny Johnson Friday night, and the confidence in his voice and for that team is something that we hadn't seen a lot of recently, because they've had some struggles. They've ran well, but they've had some struggles, and to see him go out and put that show on and say that he passed Jimmy Phelps with confidence. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that are saying they're passing HBR cars with confidence.
Very true. We'll talk more World Finals right around the turn. Right now, you're listening to Motorsports Madness here on the voice of motorsports, the Performance Motorsports Network.
Parents, your son or daughter has had their license for a while now, but you want to make sure they're prepared for any situation they may face on the road. High school driver's ed doesn't teach them to drive defensively. They need to be prepared for any highway emergency. For less than a month's insurance, and a whole lot less, BSR instructors at Summit Point Motorsports Park in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, will teach your son or daughter how to respond instantly and positively to unexpected situations on the road. BSR's specialized accident avoidance training teaches swerve to avoid maneuvers at highway speeds, ocular driving, which focuses driving attention on ways to avoid accidents, vehicle dynamics and feedback, skid control and skid recovery, threshold braking on straights and progressive braking on curves, and off-road recovery techniques. This is stuff driver's ed simply doesn't teach. So call BSR today, 304-725-8444. Give your kid the skill set needed to drive safely and responsibly on the highway. That's 304-725-8444.
The odds of a young girl being discovered by an industry insider while singing to herself pumping gas. 1 in 300 million. The odds of a daughter of a clergyman from Severn, Maryland, spending 11 weeks at number 1 on the U.S. singles charts. 1 in 19 million. The odds of going on to win 7 Grammy Awards. 1 in 1.4 million. The odds of selling over 40 million records. 1 in 800,000. The odds of this musician and performer having a child diagnosed with autism. 1 in 68. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference. Autism Speaks. It's time to listen. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Eric Darnell.
This is David Reagan.
Jamie McMurray.
This is Carl Edwards here for RAD,
the entertainment industry's voice for road safety.
Want to make a difference? It's simple. Be responsible.
Plan ahead. Designate before you celebrate.
Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Performance Motorsports Network, your authority on motorsports of all types. Be listening for the most accurate and up-to-the-minute coverage of every motorsports activity that you enjoy on a daily basis. Be it NASCAR, be it IRL, be it Formula One, be it drag racing, be it dirt track, off-road, props, hulls, whatever. We are your source for motorsport. Performance Motorsports Network. We now return you to 2.5 Men on Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Welcome back to the Madness. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, Steve Ovens here at the Race Chaser Roundtable talking dirt right now. I guess we're slinging it around the cushion, as Steve would say, and talking the World of Outlaws Bad Boy Buggies World Finals. We've talked some about day one, Steve. Mother Nature intervened on Saturday, pushed the program back a day. We got the finale in last night, and boy, was it ever a good one. For all the struggles we had with the track all weekend long, Sunday's track was the best I'd seen it. The racing was the best I'd seen it. And I want to talk about the sprint cars last because it seems only appropriate to end on such a bright note. Let's talk about big blocks first. Timmy Kerr, first Super Dirt Car Series win, the Picton, Ontario, Canada driver. He was just a little bit excited when he talked to me in Victory Lane. They were going nuts. Canada loved it.
Yeah, it was, poutine all around for everybody up north of the border. I mean, again, we just talked about it with Dusty Zellmer. If you were to tell me that Tim Kerr, weekly runner at the Brewerton Speedway and the Fulton Speedway, was going to travel down to North Carolina to the World Finals, one of the biggest stages, that the guys on the Super Dirt Car Series are on all season long, and told me that he was going to go out and take them to the woodshed like they did, I would have said you were crazy. But that's exactly what those guys did. They did that. His crew chief, Zach Aubertine, who, is just one of the great guys in the sport up here in the Northeast. They work so hard, and here's a classic example, guys. These guys come out and they compete every single week. They put the best car on the track that they can. They don't pile up 15 wins a season. They don't take 3 championships from dirt car tracks every season, like Matt Shepard did en route to the championship, but they go out, they compete at the best level that they can compete at. And I'm so happy for these guys to get that win on that big of a stage, and I can only imagine what that interview had to have been like, Jacob.
It was fun. I mean, and that trophy, Tim told me, he says, this trophy is going to have a very special place on the ride home. He was so pumped about it. And Super Matt Shepard gets his 4th championship, Steve-O. I mean, this team, and it's the first title for Hankey Baldwin Racing, Alan Judy Hankey. I mean, this was a massive celebration on the front straightaway at the end of the night. Matt was pure class after losing it on the final night a year ago. To come back and win it in dominating fashion the way he did was just very impressive, a testament to the driver he is on this tour.
Oh, they came into this World Finals determined that they were not going to let this happen for the second year in a row, and they just came out and took care of business. They even had a little bit of an engine issue in the last there in the finale. I believe that they were down a cylinder late in the going. So for that engine to hold together and allow them to seal the deal, and I'll tell you what, you want to talk about a classy organization, a classy guy, Al Hankey. Not only does he field these 2 cars with Hankey Baldwin Racing, they have revitalized Weedsport Speedway. And Tom, I know that you have seen what the changes that have happened at Weedsport. So not only for a guy like Al Hankey to get his first championship and being such a great car owner, but they give so much more back to the sport than just those two race teams on the racetrack.
Well, there's no doubt about it, and I still think that we haven't seen the end of the improvements at Weedsport, nor do I think we've seen the apogee of Hankey Baldwin Racing. I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger over the next couple of years. We're going to step aside and take a break. When we come back, Steve, if you can hang on, we're going to do some more dirt conversation here and talk about a little bit about Court as well. They had a huge race there also, want to just make mention of, and we'll do all of that right after these words. You're listening to the Motorsports Madness on PMN, the Performance Motorsports Network.
Getting your child home safely.
Tap your views together 3 times.
Is just a click away.
There's no place like home.
But making sure your child is in the right seat is just one of the steps down the road to safer travels.
I don't know how it works.
Find the right seat for your little one's age and size. There's no better way to get home safely. Know for sure that your child is in the right seat.
How can I ever thank you enough?
Get all the facts at safercar.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Performance Motorsports Network, your authority on motorsports of all types. Be listening for the most accurate and up-to-the-minute coverage of every motorsports activity that you enjoy on a daily basis. Be it NASCAR, be it IRL, be it Formula One, be it drag racing, be it dirt track, off-road, props, hulls, whatever. We are your source for motorsport. Performance Motorsports Network.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzzed driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says, "I'm a catch," more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Parents, your son or daughter has had their license for a while now, but you want to make sure they're prepared for any situation they may face on the road. High school driver's ed doesn't teach them to drive defensively. They need to be prepared for any highway emergency. For less than a month's insurance, and a whole lot less, BSR instructors at Summit Point Motorsports Park in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, will teach your son or daughter how to respond instantly and positively to unexpected situations on the road. BSR's specialized accident avoidance training teaches swerve to avoid maneuvers at highway speeds, ocular driving, which focuses driving attention on ways to avoid accidents, vehicle dynamics and feedback, skid control and skid recovery, threshold braking on straights and progressive braking on curves, and off-road recovery techniques. This is stuff driver's ed simply doesn't teach. So call BSR today, 304-725-8444. Give your kid the skill set needed to drive safely and responsibly on the highway. That's 304-725-8444. You're listening to Speed77 Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network. Now back to Jacob, Tom, and Kyle on Motorsports Madness.
Welcome back to the Performance Motorsports Network. Still dishing some dirt with Steve Ovens here on the Madness. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda also with you here at the round table. And Steve-O, I want to continue talking World Finals, and I don't want to even call it the fallout, but the reaction from everything that's gone on. It's been unbelievable. Let's finish talking about the Sunday finale program first. The late model show They call him Superman. We've called him Superman all season long. It's for a good reason. He's won 22 times now this year. He took his 6th World of Outlaws Late Model Series victory of the year on Sunday night. He has won almost $700,000 on his 2015 season, and Jonathan Davenport drove past Darrell Lanigan, the 3-time World of Outlaws late model champion, keep in mind, and off into the Charlotte night Sunday night, and everybody just watched it and go, yeah, that's what he does.
Well, and I thought it was just fantastic, Jacob, that it came down to those two drivers because you have such different circumstances for both of these guys. You've got Lanigan, who was trying to seal the deal on his way over to the Lucas Oil Late Model Series, and has just, other than the blip on the screen this year, has just, has had their struggles, without a doubt. It's been well documented, their struggles. But, I really think it would have been a great story for either of these drivers. And Davenport, I don't know what more we can say about Jonathan Davenport. I mean, you just said it. They've won almost $700,000 in all of the different races and tours that they compete with. And I just thought it was appropriate for an event like the World Finals, capping off the season, that it came down to one of the best on the World of Outlaw late models and one of the best for the Lucas Oil late models or any dirt late model race for that matter. Because, after all, that's what the World Finals is about.
It is. It's about all these racers coming together to try and find supremacy. The driver who found supremacy, Steve, over everybody else was Shane Clanton. Really didn't have a great weekend, finished 9th on the final night, but it was enough to give him his first World of Outlaws Late Model Series championship in 2015. 10 wins on the year, drives to the title over Josh Richards, another 3-time titleist. And for Shane, he led the points every weekend of the season through the 41 races that we completed, Steve-O. He did what Darren Pittman did in 2013 on the sprint car set. Won the first race of the year and never lost the points lead after that. It was a remarkable run. His brother Joey was a former ASA pavement champion back in 2002. The family legacy continues.
Yes, it does, and I think that this really goes to show that it's not just raw speed. It's not just having an unlimited budget and going out and buying the best of everything that you can. You still have to come out and grind it out all season long, all through the summer months when the trips seem longer than they really are, and you take nights where you don't have a car to win the race, but you got a good enough car to run in the top 5, and it's all those nights put together that has brought Shane Clanton this championship, and I think that's great because we look at Donnie Schatz winning 31 races on the sprint car side, but I look over at Shane Clanton and I said, you know what, that's a classic championship right there. Just they won their races, they won 10 races, they won a lot at the beginning, they sprinkled some wins throughout the year, and they closed it off. They went to the World Finals and got the job done, and congratulations to them.
It was fun to watch, and let's move to the sprint cars because this finale was an unbelievable story of 2 drivers and 2 seasons. For the race winner, it was a statement, and in his own words, he said to me after the race, Steve-O, the win that we got on Sunday night was like hitting a walk-off grand slam to win the World Series. And he announced earlier today his new home for 2016. But Joey Saldana, in his final start for Modern Motorsports, Steve-O, gets it done one more time in the 71M, leads wire to wire in an unbelievable performance.
And I loved the quote that he used. He said it was like hitting a walk-off grand slam at the World Series. I mean, if that doesn't give you an indication of how much that win meant, I mean that's if you know that the future doesn't looks grim to move on with that team. I mean, why not go out and lead wire to wire and show all these guys that, although we may not be together next year and this team, because of sponsorship, may not be able to move forward, you know what, we're still pretty darn good. And that's, if that's nothing, if you take nothing else from that win by Saldana at the end, I mean, these win. It doesn't matter that the points championship was over. It still means something to win these races. And for Joey Saldana and the Modern Motorsports team, boy, that win meant an awful lot for those guys.
Well, and it isn't like he just came out of nowhere. I mean, he was leading at one point late Friday night,
sure.
Jacob. So he had a really good weekend, period, in terms of performance. And I think the biggest thing I got out of that quote is how unselfish Joey Saldana is. That wasn't a quote that was meant to say, I'm glad I won for my sake. It's I'm glad I won for this team and for everything they've done for me and meant to me. If it's meant that we're gonna be apart after this, what a way to go out. So that shows you what kind of a character Joey Saldana is, and I'm glad that he's landed on his feet quite nicely for next year. I'll let you guys get into the rumors when you will, but what a great way to go out. And I just was really impressed because I know the sentiment behind that quote.
Sure.
I wish more racers had that sort of unselfish team mentality.
Absolutely. And again, we'll talk about Joey landing on his feet in just a second. Steve, real quick, though, do want to give props. We talked about it about a month ago, but Donnie Schatz, 7th World of Outlaws title, officially crowned last night and earlier today, picking up the Champions Check, the I believe $250,000 for winning the title. An unbelievable run, 31 wins, including that milestone 200th earlier this season. Just, he's the standard right now in that series, and I think he'll continue to be the standard.
Yeah, and, I thought it was so appropriate that they said, they said after taking on the championship that, it was a great season, but as soon as that checkered flag flew, their attention immediately goes to 2016. And I really think that even though, last night was the official cap on the year, they've already been thinking about 2016. I really believe, Jacob, that as soon as they locked up the championship, they're still going to perform at a high level, but they're already looking at next year. What do we have to do to be able to come back and back up a 31-win season in which we locked up the title?
His goal was 40.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
He said that to me on Wednesday at the preview event for the World Finals that TSR was doing, Steve. He said their goal coming into the year was 40, and I mean, they got more than 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah, and it does beg the question, because that's such a high number, can you maintain that going forward? But honestly, I think this year showed. I mean, this is some of the most competitive racing that we've seen on tour in a long time. I mean, anybody that wants to compare him to Steve Kinzer, it's really apples to oranges, Jacob, because you look at, I don't think the competition level was near what it is today back then when Steve was winning all of his races.
Oh, no, the competition level nowadays is unbelievable, I think, just from a quality standpoint compared to what Kinzer and Swindell were up against in their heyday. There were 5 or 6 guys. Now, every one of those full-time guys on the tour is capable of going out and winning a race. And, one more guy I want to talk about real quickly before we get into silly season, Steve. Logan Schuchart on Sunday night almost won a race. And you sit there, look at it, and go, gosh, we wish he could have won one. He needs to win one, and that's the story going into the Dirt Car Nationals in February. When will Schuchart win?
Yeah, and, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's very far off. I mean, we said it going into the World Finals that it could happen, but I still think that for those guys, the run that they had, running up front, closing on such a positive positive event for those guys is just going to give them the motivation and the momentum going into the off season. I mean, you look at this team. I mean, look what they're doing with this team. They're competing for wins on the World of Outlaws schedule. And here, they just completed their second season on tour, Jacob. And look what we were talking about 2 years ago. We weren't even sure if they would make it through their first season. And here they are now completing their second season. And I'll tell you, as much as we talk about Logan Schuchart, give a nod to Jacob Allen for how much he's improved in his second year. Now they've made it through 2 years, Jacob. I just think that they're only going to get better and better as they go.
I do agree with that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Shark Racing can do in 16. I think they certainly have a chance to be very competitive. Jacob's made strides. Logan's close to winning races. That's going to be, in my opinion, one of the great stories to watch. It already has been, but even more so in 2016. Now, we've held off for a while. Let's finally get there, because the banquet today, boy, did everybody start releasing their news at once. The dominoes began, Steve. Let's set this up. The dominoes started when Joey Saldana and Motorsports announced they were looking for sponsorship in order to be able to continue in 2016. About 3 hours after they won the race on Sunday night, last night, Dan Motter released a statement that because he couldn't give Joey a firm commitment, he was releasing him from his contract to pursue other opportunities. We found out exactly what that meant at 9 a.m. this morning when Roth Motorsports out of Fresno, California, the Tim Kading's former team and a former full-time competitor on the World of Outlaws Tour, announced they had signed Saldana full-time. And he's driven for him before 1996, 2001. He had two separate stints for the Roth team. So Saldana back with the team he has a lot of history with, Steve. That means likely the 71M may fade away, may not. We don't know yet. What we do know is that Paul McMahon announced a couple of weeks ago he was leaving the CJB number 51 machine to go elsewhere. McMahon moving over to the 7 for Destiny Motorsports, and David Gravel, who was the driver at Destiny, is taking McMahon's seat in the 51 car, which is going to be renumbered as the 5 for 2016. And Tom told me earlier today, it's like NASCAR in the 70s when everybody goes, you go here, and you go here, and I'll go over there, and we'll all make it work out, and we'll all have a place to race in 16. And that's exactly what it feels like we're doing right now.
Well, and let's go back to what we said when the Paul McMahon news came out, Jacob. We said that, we knew that information at the time. We knew that the Motter team was trying to find sponsorship in order to put together a full deal for Joey. And we said there's not a lot of teams out there that, there were some potentials, but it really would have had a lot of sponsorship come through. To add another team to TSR, it would have taken some sponsorship dollars to make that happen. For Modders to continue, it would have taken some sponsorship dollars to happen. But yeah, this is exactly, we didn't know where all the pieces were going to fall, but this is the exact scenario that I expected to happen, because you had just the right number of seats available, and it's just kind of plugging and playing here as we get into the silly season and the off season. But for all of these drivers, I feel like they've all landed on their feet. David Gravel, I still think David Gravel, if he could just get comfortable and get enough time to gel with the team, I think David Gravel could be the next guy to step up and take over as we see some of these drivers get on the tail end of their career. Look for David Gravel to really take a step forward in 2016 with CJB Motorsports. As far as Paul McMahon goes, I'm still interested to see where this Destiny Motorsports team is going to go. I'm glad that Paul was able to fall into that deal, but I'm still I don't know, Jacob. They've had Craig Delansky in the car, then they had the run with David Gravel, and now Paul McMahon. Maybe a guy like Paul McMahon is what that team needed, the stability to move forward and And again, Gel is a team. We'll see how things shake out when we get down to Volusia to start the 2016 season. But that's the one team that I look at. I mean, Roth Motorsports, they're the history there, and Joey's history there. I think those guys are going to be just fine. But I will watch for that Destiny Motorsports ride, because that's the question mark to me.
I'm going to be interested to see how gravel fits into the CJB puzzle with Sammy Swindell over there. Sammy's a big name with a big shadow, and it's going to be interesting. I think it takes a certain chemistry to be successful at this level, and it's going to be interesting to see how that all works out. And I agree with you that the Destiny situation is a little bit intriguing, because I'm not sure that I would say that either Delansky or Gravel have a lack of talent. I think, I think, it's just a matter of the right people in the right places, and, things falling together. Some people work better, with some people than others. So, I hope it works out for all involved, because all of these guys are great guys and really big time racers. So it was just interesting how it ended up, Jacob, in a matter of, less than 8 hours. We had about 3 major announcements, as if everybody huddled together at the banquet and decided, okay, well, I'll go over there. And it, just like I said earlier, there used to be in the 70s, it was the same 5 guys or so moving around all the time. It was just like they were all, going, I'll go drive for you this time and you go drive for him that time. And, but it was always the same 5 guys in play, not like you see it now in NASCAR. And that's kind of what this reminded me of, is just a game of musical chairs.
Exactly.
Well, of all the chairs that we didn't know were going to move, Tom, the one after Friday night that we were pretty sure we were pretty sure that there wasn't going to be any teaming up of, you talked about Sammy Swindell, him or Tanner Thorson.
I was just going to mention that, actually.
Good point.
I was going to mention that to you, Tom, as a matter of fact, and talk about that just for a second here, because, the body slam move that Swindell put on Thorson, he got up into the catch fence. It delayed the Friday program. That program got done at about 3:07 a.m. Saturday morning, because we had to repair the fence twice, once for Thorson and again when McMahon got into the fence in turn 2. But Thorson, that was the emotion of the night, I think. He was not happy.
No, definitely not. And, I think anybody that saw it saw what happened. And there's not much to really say about it other than, we've seen it before. So that's what, it's going to be an interesting scenario going forward with CJB. Hopefully David Gravel is the right personality to sort of fit into that group, because Sammy Swindell has been racing long enough that he is the number 1 driver on the team, period. So we'll see how that all works out.
It's going to be interesting to see. Steve-O, always appreciate your insight. We're excited now. This is the unofficial end to the dirt racing season, so we really get to wrap it all up here now. All we've got left is the Indoor Indy Invitational, and it's on to 16.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. A lot of these guys are going to start moving on to their rides over down under in Australia. So we'll be following along the action, and certainly there'll be plenty to talk about before we get ready for 2016.
It's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. Steve Ovens, always a pleasure, and you can catch Steve every Tuesday night here on the Performance Motorsports Network. Turn 5 live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. Right now, we're going to take care of a little bit of business, come back for the grand finale. The white flag segment is after this, and we'll try to predict who wins Phoenix. You're listening to Motorsports Madness here on the Performance Motorsports Network.
In 50 feet, turn left. Why are you driving so slowly?
After a few drinks, I'm taking it slow.
Well, you're not fooling the cop behind you.
What?
Get ready to pay in 0.1 miles.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Do you love the sound of high revving motors and the smell of burning rubber? Do you want to get your car sideways right at the ragged edge of control? If you've always wanted to try drifting or learn to improve your drifting skills, Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier motorsports facility, has the expert instructors and the specialized track to teach you how to drift and the skills necessary to drift competitively. From skid pad to open sessions, Summit Point Motorsports Park has the safe and open environment that allows drifters of all skill levels, new to intermediate, to get sideways and smoking. With a focus on safety and the skill set necessary to drift competitively, Summit Point Motorsports Park's Drift Nirvana is just the thing for you. Call for your reservation today, 304-725-8444. Or for more information, go online, summitpoint-raceway.com, or you can email them at office@bsrinc.com. Drift Nirvana, getting you sideways the right way.
This is Paul Stanley from KISS for RAD, recording artists, actors, and athletes against drunk driving. Some of us work months producing a CD, but in less time than it takes to play it, someone will be killed in an alcohol-related crash. So please don't drive when you've been drinking. Plan ahead. Arrange a designated driver. Remember, friends don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Performance Motorsports Network, your authority on motorsports of all types. Be listening for the most accurate and up-to-the-minute coverage of every motorsports activity that you enjoy on a daily basis. Be it NASCAR, be it IRL, be it Formula One, be it drag racing, be it dirt track, off-road, props, hulls, whatever. We are your source for motorsports. Performance Motorsports Network.
This is Joey Logano, driver of NASCAR number 22 Discount Tire Car. You know something? You and I aren't all that different. I drive a car, you drive a car. My car has tires, your car has tires. I may be going just a little faster than you each weekend, but we both need to keep those tires properly inflated to stay safe. So be tire smart and do your part. Check your tire pressures once a month and before every long journey.
Visit betiresmart.org. A message from the Rubber Manufacturers Association.
Time to get back to tonight's Motorsports Madness. Here are the only three of a kind that beats a full house. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and Kyle Magda.
Well, kids, welcome back to the madness here on the Performance Motorsports Network. Our white flag segment in the air. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda back around the round table, and it's time to pull out the wonderful or sometimes maligned crystal balls and get ready to make our picks for the second to last NASCAR weekend of the season. Oh boy, it's almost that time. And, you know, nobody did better this weekend than you, Tom. You won.
I almost
on
had
Friday.
3 of a kind.
You almost had 3 of a kind. If you'd have done what I did and picked Jimmy, you'd have had all 3 winners. You had Eric and you had Brad.
2 aces and a 4.
Well, it's not too bad. Anyway, that does mean I had Jimmy Johnson and had a remarkably consistent weekend. I had Matt Crafton and Eric Jones, who wasn't bad, by the way. Kyle Magda, that means you're the worst of the 3. You had Logano, who was junk. You had Busch, who ended up getting junked, and Daniel Suarez, who probably could have won a truck race, but still doesn't have one. So you get to go first, my friend. And I'm just prepared for the inevitable here. Yeah, you know we've got 4 races this weekend, and yes, I'm saying the West race is a race because
it is a race.
Doggone, it's one heck of a field.
Yeah, and as I tell you guys every week, these fantasy picks are a crapshoot. So, either you do really good or you do really bad, or sometimes, you're lucky enough you're consistent, but that wasn't the case. But
anyway.
Picks this week, and I am, first off, I'm going to say my West pick for last, and because that's a very important race, but I will pull a Jacob here and go on the inevitable 2-inch limb. Cup race, I will take Kevin Harvick. Xfinity race, Kyle Busch. Truck race, Eric Jones. Then the K&N West race. Oh boy, this is going to be tough. This pick, I'm going to take this guy. And he had 2 top 5s to end the K&N East season. He's running West race this weekend. Spencer Davis gets the job done. First win.
Wow.
Wow.
See, now he went out on the 2-inch limb and everything else, and he went out on the 2-foot limb in the
How is
West
Spencer
race.
Davis a 2-foot limb?
In the K&N car, I think it is.
K&N races, so.
Yeah, just
and starting mid-pack as well, because both the qualifying sessions got rained out.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough road to hoe for him just because of the level of competition and his lack of experience on miles, I think.
Fair enough. My turn. Let's see here. I'm going to go in order so I don't confuse myself because I tend to do that a lot. West Race, I'm going to pick a driver that's the king at Phoenix. I never expected him to be on this entry list. We've drug him out of retirement, ladies and gentlemen, and this is going to be hopefully a guest for our show next Thursday because I think he's going to win his 4th race at Phoenix. Welcome back, a former champion of the K&M West Series, Greg Pursley, is back for another shot at the mile. He's in the 26. It's going to be fielded. I believe it's out of the Jefferson Pitts camp. It's not officially owned by the team, but it's going to have support from that camp, which is basically the remnants of his former team anyways. So give me the 26 for the West Race, just because even though he's been out of the car for a year, I think he's that good. Truck race, I'm going to do it again because he couldn't beat Eric Jones. He's the second best thing, Matt Crafton. And plus, I think he's going to be fired up to try and find a way to beat Eric at Phoenix since Eric stomped him at Texas. Xfinity race, well, it worked for Tom. I'm going to make it work for me, and he's going to win another race to even further cement why the 22 team won the Owners' Championship. I'll take Keselowski because Magda took Kyle Busch, and I'm just going to be that guy because I don't believe anybody else can even come close. Sorry, Magda, I'm sticking with you. Kevin Harvick wins the Cup race.
And you're a killjoy.
Sorry, I had to go there. Well, I guess, sorry about that. I guess that means that you left the rest of the field for me in the Cup race.
Yeah.
I think that's so the question of I'll take Harvick, you take the rest of the field. I'll take the rest of the. No, I guess I can't do that. Okay, well, here's the deal here. I'm glad I didn't win all 3 last week because Jacob would have been wanting to take my crystal ball to the R&D center. So
I probably would have too.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's start with the West race. And
Yes, please.
you guys all went for, you overlooked the obvious.
Greg, you're going out on the 2-inch limb?
But there's a reason behind the fact that I'm doing this. You're overlooking the fact that there's a championship battle going on here.
I know.
And I just don't believe that you're going to see even Greg Pursley, as good as he's been at Phoenix. I don't think he comes in once and just stomps the field. This is a championship battle, and the winner of the championship is going to be the winner of the race because, after all, we said that's if you want to win a championship, what do? You win the race. And, gosh, I hate to offend either of these young drivers by picking the other one, but I'm going to take Noah Gragson. I think Noah goes out, gets it done, wins the championship, and just puts it away. That's how that
I'm
rolls.
okay with that.
Yeah, I think Noah, but I would be just fine if I was wrong and Grayson Raz got it because either one of those two deserve it. But moving on to Friday night's truck race. Again, you guys stuck with the championship racers, and that would lend me to want to do the same and just pick Tyler Reddick, but I'm not going to do that. Who's in the 29 for this race?
Austin Cindric.
That's exactly why I'm picking that truck to win. I really was surprised, Jacob, that you didn't dive for that, just knowing your faith in Austin. But
yeah,
I'm
have
picking
faith in Austin, but I don't know that he's going to win over a championship contender.
Now, on Saturday in the Xfinity race, you got to remember this is Phoenix. Now, I have one question because I didn't look at the entry list. Is Kevin Harvick on the entry list?
He is not.
I believe
Casey Kane's in the 88.
Okay, so in that case, I'm going to stick with my usual 2-inch limb and pick whoever's in the 54.
Oh, you're agreeing with me then?
you're going to be the same. You're going to be the same as Magda.
I mean, there's only 3 cars. It's either going to be the 88, the 22, or the 54, and I just don't have any faith that.
You don't think Kevin Harvick can win an Xfinity race at his best track? Really?
Kyle just said Casey Kane's in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm picking the 54.
Yeah, Kevin has more important things to do this weekend.
We'll see. Yeah, I guess so. And then on Sunday, I am just going to be that guy. Joey Logano gets the win at Phoenix and gets into the chase, the Final Four, so that we can go down and all of the fans can just be at an all-time frenzy for whether NASCAR is going to fix it so Jeff Gordon wins, whether somebody's going to dump Joey Logano like Matt Kenseth again, or you know what? And honestly, it's the interesting part of that whole scenario, guys. Now, just picture this, if you will. Again, you know, the fans thinking like this is World Wrestling, so we have, you know, heels and good guys. You would have, if Logano wins, think about your Final Four here. You've got Kevin Harvick,
a villain,
who the fans like. He's a villain who the fans like because he's sort of their, you know, the modern day Dale Earnhardt. You know, you've got Joey Logano, a villain who the fans hate. You've got Jeff Gordon, a good guy who the fans hated. Now they kind of like.
They love him. If Martinsville was any evidence, they love him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still milking cookies to Junior Nation, but you know, the old Earnhardt fans. But they love him now because he's retiring. And now who's the fourth one going to be?
Kyle Busch.
Most likely. I mean, you know, unless something happens, you would think it's going to be Kyle Busch.
Is Kyle Busch a hero or a villain in this scenario?
This is where I'm going with this. Kyle Busch is one of those people, much like Joey Logano, and formerly like Jeff Gordon, and currently like Kevin Harvick. You either love him or you hate him. Can you imagine social media just exploding into 8 million pieces before they drop the green at Homestead?
Oh, boy.
What a Final Four that it's got to happen. Joey Logano wins at Phoenix.
Oh, boy, you're opening it up now. So
it would only be a little less frenzy if Keselowski wins, but I'm picking Joey.
Fair enough.
And remember, he was fast there in the spring.
He wasn't Kevin Harvick.
He was darn close.
Fair enough. Anyway, lightning round. Final thoughts, gentlemen. We got a couple of minutes here. Tom Baker first. I return to you. If Joey Logano wins, are you buying or selling that the fans get so frenzied they try to burn the place down on Sunday?
Well, I don't know about any of that, but I am very sad to say that I think there would be a record number of beer cans thrown onto a NASCAR track, which is really why I hope he wins. I mean, I just, you know, the way people are reacting to him, and, you know, we're making fun of Brad's teeth. I mean, come on, are we 10? Come on, people, you're better than this, or maybe you're not. So I just think it would. I'm not sure I'm buying they would burn the place down, but it certainly would. Social media may explode. That would just be so much fun to watch.
Magda, of the 4 races, which one are you buying is going to be the best race of the weekend?
I'm going to have to go the West race because like I said, I think we have too many 2-inch limbs this weekend with the other 3. So I just don't know what we're going to expect on Thursday. It really is an unknown. You know, it's so many East guys coming out and also the West guys. So it's going to be an interesting race. I'll be following it. Hopefully we'll have Ryan there, and we'll have somebody cover it. So I'm really looking forward to that the most, and we're going to crown a champion. And we're looking for the first rookie champion in the West Series in 12 years. So that's
never happened. Well. Yeah, gosh.
That's right.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, because Noah or Grayson would be, or who's
Ryan Partridge.
Partridge, yeah, that's right. And I just real quick, if I'm ranking order of excitement, I'm going to just take a flyer here. K&N West, second would be the truck race, third would be the cup race, and fourth would be Xfinity. That's my thought on how they're going to rank in order of excitement this weekend.
Tom, one more final thought for you. Are you buying that this weekend's K&N West race is the single biggest display of NASCAR's future talent that we've had in the last 10 years?
Sure. Yeah, I just wish all these guys were there and it was a full combined race. But yeah, absolutely. I think people need to pay attention to this race because these kids aren't just a bunch of little rich kids that happen to get there on dollars. A lot of these kids can flat wheel race cars, and they're going to show that Thursday night.
I'm looking forward to it right now. We're getting ready to say goodnight here as we throw a checkered flag on this edition of Motorsports Madness. We thank you for tuning in and making our job a whole lot more fun every Monday night, and we hope you'll join us back here on the Performance Motorsports Network next Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern for another 2 hours of motorsports conversation. My final shout-outs for the evening are to 3 champions in MotoGP. Jorge Lorenzo takes the championship for Yamaha in the last race of the season, and 2 NHRA champions, Antron Brown, Erica Enders, locked up their titles a week ago in Las Vegas. That goes down to Pomona here in just over a week's time to crown those champions in California. Right now, for Tom, Kyle, Joel, Steve, Big Mike behind the glass, and the rest of our staff at Race Chaser Online and the Performance Motorsports Network, I'm Jacob Seelman, reminding you to keep it off the wall until we meet again. And hey, if you're going to be at a racetrack, we might just see you there. Have a safe racing weekend. Good night.
You've been listening to Motorsports Madness with the Speed77 Radio Race Chaser Online crew. Stay tuned to Performance Motorsports Network for more race talk. For the latest motorsports news, visit racechaseronline.com. Motorsports Madness is a copyrighted production of the Performance Motorsports Network. www.performancemotorsportsnetwork.com. A member of the Scorpion Radio Group, Inc., and may not be rebroadcast, replicated, or saved in any media without the explicit written permission of PMN. Check out our Facebook page or our section on the PMN website. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host, co-host, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of the management and ownership of either the Performance Motorsports Network or Scorpion Radio Group Incorporated, the advertisers, or the marketing partners. Be listening again next week when the madness returns on Monday night at 7 Eastern. Until then, keep it off the wall and keep the shiny side up.